Many of us have a memory of an unexplained event which in hindsight actually protected us. Some online contributors have shared true stories of some crucial incident or internal warning mechanism which saved them in some way. The theme park. Rob reported a dark incident which occurred when he was around 11 years old. His parents took him on a trip to Austria and the family visited a theme park. Inside the theme park, there was a jumping activity with 1 metre, 2 metre and 3 metre poles around it. You could jump down onto a huge cushiony airbag. He wanted to have a go and went straight up the tallest pole. But strangely, although he had jumped down those kinds of poles before a few times, suddenly this time he felt completely terrified. He had no idea why, but instantaneously he was shaking and scared for his own life with a deep kind of fear which he'd never before experienced. His own mind was shouting at him not to jump, which didn't make sense because it was so easy to just jump down there and have some fun. So he made way to let the child behind him go first. Tragically, the girl died. The airbag had a leak and the 9-year-old girl sustained horrific injuries. He climbed down and never forgot that terrible moment. If he had jumped, he would be no more, and he couldn't stop feeling that something like fate wanted him to survive on that day, but fail to protect her. The gut feeling. At the age of 16, Nerida experienced an uncanny kind of feeling. Her father and brother were already both in bed as they had both been sick. They had taken some medication and so were fast asleep. Nerida's aunt had cancer and her mother was staying with her to assist. Nerida called her mother and explained to her that she couldn't sleep because of these terrible feelings of doom. She just instinctively knew if she went to sleep, she wouldn't wake up. Her mother convinced her that she was just stressed out as it had been a bad year. She suggested to Nerida that she sleep on the sofa, which Nerida tried, but she still couldn't shake the feeling. Eventually she did go and lay down in her bed, then dozed off. She woke to see terrifying flames. The house next door to her family's had massively caught fire. Her bedroom was closest to the next door property, and her actual roof had also caught fire. She quickly bundled her family out of the house and called the fire department. Had she have slept on the sofa, by the time she realised the house was on fire, they would not have had a clear path out. Her father called her mother to tell her about the fire, and she realised that Nerida's gut feeling had saved the family. The accident. Terence shared that he once had an accident when he fell asleep driving. He had run off the road when he entered a T intersection. His car had headed straight into a forested area, going at about 50 miles per hour, but then run into a telephone pole's guy wire. This is a heavy cable planted in the ground at a 45-degree angle to the pole. Terence realised that that cable was a godsend because it absorbed most of his kinetic energy and safely slowed him down. To indicate how much of the impact it had absorbed, the cable had cut into the front end of his car to the depth of about 2 feet, slicing the battery in half as it went. It also turned the vehicle around 90 degrees so that Terence was sideways when he plunged down a hill into the woodland. The car rolled about 3 times and ended up landing on its roof, completely missing all the trees. Terence, who had been wearing a seatbelt, extracted himself from the crash, gathered his belongings, and walked away completely unharmed. As it was 2 a.m. and pre-cell phones, he made his way the 2 miles home. After arriving there, he noticed that about midway up his right thigh, a perfect 1-inch square of fabric was missing from his khaki pants. Terence was astonished by the perfection of this missing square. The edges were so clean, it was as if it had been carefully carved out with a scalpel, however, leaving no cuts or scrapes on the skin of his thigh. The surreal nature of the find creeped him out. To this day, he believes that when he does pass on, he will be presented with this 1-inch square of khaki fabric and be told it wasn't your time. The dream. 6 years ago, Yvonne, who was 14 at the time, shared a room with her sister who was then 9. The girls' beds were next to each other and usually about 4 feet apart, but often ended up squashed together because Yvonne's sister was constantly doing gymnastics on her bed, which moved the mattress. One night, Yvonne dreamt of a glass doll with long dark hair and remembers feeling that she needed to protect it. She was trying hard to keep it safe, promising it would be okay, but as she was speaking these words, the doll's hair started falling out. In the dream, she dropped the doll and it smashed. Then, with the help of doctors, the doll was glued back together and its hair grew back. When Yvonne woke up, she felt like crying and couldn't understand why she'd had that dream. She noticed that her head had left her pillow at some stage and was resting against her sister's head. When her sister finally woke up, she told Yvonne about her dream. It was exactly the same dream. By this point, Yvonne was feeling shocked, but her sister didn't believe her when she told her, maybe thinking she was playing mind games. 6 months later, Yvonne's sister was diagnosed with cancer. She did end up losing all her hair, and, as in the dream, her hair grew back and she recovered. Yvonne still feels confused about the two girls' strange dreams, but in a way is also thankful for them because they enabled her to emotionally brace herself for what was to come.